The galaxy was vast, endless, a sea of stars and dust. Long ago, giant astral beings roamed this emptiness. They were titans of creation. Their lives were cosmic events, their deaths equally so. When these beings perished, their immense life force did not simply vanish. It coalesced. It formed something new. These were the astral cells, shimmering jewels scattered across the void. They pulsed with an ancient, unimaginable power. Power that would shape destinies, power that would fuel empires, and power that would ignite rebellions. The universe held its breath. Shen energy flowed from these astral cells. It was a river of pure force, the lifeblood of existence itself. It connected every planet, every star, every living thing. Some were born with a sensitivity to Shen. They could feel its currents, they could touch its power. These individuals were rare, gifted, or perhaps cursed. For Shen was not easily controlled. It demanded strength, it demanded will. Those who could wield it became more than mortal. They became forces of nature, capable of incredible feats, capable of terrible destruction. The balance of Shen was the balance of the galaxy. To become a warrior of Shen was a difficult path. Training began young. It was harsh, unforgiving. Students pushed their bodies, they pushed their minds, they pushed their spirits to the breaking point, and beyond. They learned to draw Shen from the world around them, to channel it through their own beings, to shape it into devastating attacks or impenetrable defenses. The power they achieved was immense. They could shatter mountains, they could calm storms, they could even touch the fabric of space and time. But with great power came great responsibility, and even greater danger. Yet this power was not shared equally. The Bonbonic States rose, a tyrannical empire. They sought to control all Shen, to hoard its might. They built vast machines to drain the astral cells. They conscripted those strong in Shen, forcing them into their armies. The weak were crushed, their worlds exploited. A dark shadow fell across the galaxy. Planets whispered of freedom, of a time when Shen flowed free. The people yearned for a hero, someone to stand against the darkness, someone to restore the light. The stage was set for conflict, for legends to be born. Mavis was a young man, from a forgotten planet on the galaxy's edge. His world was poor, oppressed by the Bonbonic States. But Mavis was different. He possessed a raw Shen potential, untamed, unrefined, like a wildfire waiting for a spark. He saw the injustice, he felt the suffering of his people. A fire ignited in his heart, a fire of defiance. He would not stand by, he would not bow. He began to fight. Small skirmishes at first, sabotaging Imperial supply lines, protecting his village. He was a ghost, a whisper of hope. His courage, however, outpaced his caution. Mavis led a small uprising, a desperate attempt to free his sector. He rallied the downtrodden. He spoke of freedom. His Shen flared brightly, inspiring those around him. But the Bonbonic States were a colossal machine. Their legions descended, armored walkers, Shen-powered warships. The rebellion was crushed, swiftly, brutally. Mavis fought like a cornered beast. His power was great for one so young, but it was not enough. He was overwhelmed, captured. Hope seemed to flicker and die. His journey, it seemed, was over before it truly began. Imprisonment was harsh, cold, dark. The Bonbonic jailers were cruel. They tried to break his spirit. They mocked his dreams of freedom. Days blurred into weeks. Despair was a constant companion. Yet Mavis did not shatter. Deep within him the fire still burned, dimmed perhaps, but not extinguished. He observed his captors. He listened to their words. He learned of their weaknesses. He felt the Shen energy even within the sterile walls of his cell. He focused. He meditated. His resolve hardened into tempered steel. He would find a way. He would survive. Then chaos erupted. Explosions rocked the prison complex. Alarms blared. The distinct hum of rebel ships echoed through the corridors. It was Stave, the legendary rebel group, whispered about in hushed tones across the oppressed worlds. They moved like shadows, struck like lightning. Their Shen warriors were skilled, disciplined. They fought with a purpose Mavis understood. During the confusion, a Stave operative found Mavis's cell. They saw the fire in his eyes. They sensed his dormant power. "Come with us," the operative said, "if you truly want to fight." A new path opened. A chance. Joining Stave was not easy. Mavis was an outsider, untrained, reckless. He had to prove his worth. He had to earn their trust. The rebel group had its own ways, its own Yanshi, Kibishi strict codes. The training regimen was beyond anything he had ever imagined. It was relentless, pushing him past his physical and mental limits day after day. He sparred with seasoned warriors. He studied ancient Shen philosophies. He learned the art of disciplined combat, of fighting not for himself but for a greater cause, for the freedom of all. He stumbled. He fell, but he always got back up, stronger. His greatest challenge was controlling his Shen. His raw power was immense, but it was wild, unpredictable, like a raging storm. Under the patient guidance of Stave masters, he began to learn. He learned to feel the flow of Shen within him, to draw it out, to shape it with his will. It was a slow, arduous process, filled with frustration, filled with small victories. He spent countless hours in meditation, connecting with the energy that bound the universe. Slowly his control grew. His techniques became more refined. He started to form bonds. Friendships forged in shared hardship and common purpose. He was no longer alone. Soon Mavis was ready for real missions. He fought alongside his stave comrades, striking at Bonbonic outposts, liberating captured resources, rescuing political prisoners. Each battle was a crucible, testing his skills, testing his resolve. He tasted the bitterness of loss, the pain of seeing friends fall, but he also knew the exhilaration of victory, the hope that bloomed with each successful operation. His Shen power surged in the heat of combat, adapting, evolving. He learned to anticipate his enemy's moves, to work seamlessly with his team. His name began to spread, a rising star within the rebellion. Mavis became a pivotal fighter for Stave. His unique abilities, his unorthodox tactics, they often turned the tide of battle. He could unleash bursts of Shen that shattered enemy formations. He could move with incredible speed. He inspired courage in those around him. He led daring raids deep into enemy territory. He became a symbol, a beacon of hope for the oppressed, a source of growing fear for the Bonbonic states. Yet as his power and influence grew, a subtle change began within him. A whisper, a craving for more strength, a dangerous seed of ambition started to take root in his heart. The Bonbonic states could no longer ignore Mavis. He was not just a nuisance, he was a genuine threat. His victories were too frequent, his influence too widespread. They studied him, his power, his methods, his apparent ambition. They saw the fire in him, a fire they believed they could redirect. A plan began to form in the shadowy councils of the Empire, a plan to ensnare Mavis, to turn their greatest enemy into their most powerful weapon. They knew his strengths. They also sensed his hidden yearning, a yearning for something more than endless war. A high-ranking Bonbonic official was dispatched, not a brute, but a cunning diplomat, eloquent, persuasive. This agent, Lord Valerius, sought out Mavis, under a flag of truce. Valerius spoke not of conquest but of order, of stability, of a galaxy united under a strong hand. He painted a picture of a universe where Shen was used to build, not destroy. He acknowledged Mavis's strength, his leadership. He offered Mavis a place within this grand vision, a position of immense power, a chance to end the suffering, to bring about peace, through strength, through control. Mavis listened. His heart was a battlefield. He saw the truth in some of Valerius's words. Stave's fight was noble, but it was slow, so much sacrifice, so much loss. Would they ever truly win, or would the galaxy bleed forever? The Bonbonic offer was seductive. It promised swift results, the power to reshape the galaxy, to impose his will for the greater good. He wrestled with his loyalty to Stave, with the bonds he had forged. But the whispers of dominion were strong. What if he could change the Empire from within? Use its vast resources for true justice? The allure of ultimate power was a potent poison. The whispers intensified. He could end the war. He could save countless lives. He could usher in an era of unprecedented peace. All it would take was one decision, one compromise. He began to rationalize. He told himself Stave's methods were insufficient, that true change required true authority. He convinced himself he was strong enough to wield absolute power without being corrupted by it. He believed he could control the Empire, bend it to his ideals. A dangerous delusion, a tragic miscalculation. The path to darkness was paved with such intentions. Section 5. The Emperor's Shadow, Betrayal, and the Black Throne. The choice was made. Mavis turned his back on Stave. He accepted Lord Valerius's offer. He chose power. He chose the Empire. The betrayal cut deep. Stave was shattered. His friends, his mentors, they could not believe it. The hero they had nurtured, the hope they had placed in him, all turned to ash. The news spread like a shockwave through the rebel forces. Morale plummeted. How could their brightest star fall so far? The pain of his treachery was a wound that would fester for years. Mavis, the hero, was no more. He joined the Bonbonic states. His arrival sent ripples through the imperial hierarchy. Some were wary, others saw his potential. Mavis did not care. He focused on his ascent. His Shen power, now unburdened by Stave's restrictive philosophies, surged. He was ruthless, efficient. He crushed remaining pockets of resistance with brutal precision. He reorganized imperial legions. He implemented new strategies. His rise was meteoric, his ambition a burning inferno. He proved his loyalty to his new masters, or so they thought. He was loyal only to his vision, his twisted vision of order. The old Bonbonic Emperor was a relic, weak, decadent. Mavis saw him as an obstacle. With the backing of key military figures and the cunning Valerius, Mavis orchestrated a swift, silent coup. There was little resistance. The old guard was swept away. Mavis stood before the imperial court. He declared himself the new emperor, the Black Emperor. His Shen energy, once a vibrant blue, now pulsed with a dark crimson light. It was the color of his ambition, the color of his reign. Fear, not admiration, was the galaxy's response. A new era of darkness had begun. As the Black Emperor, Mavis promised stability. He promised an end to the endless wars. He promised strength. His methods, however, were draconian. Freedom of speech was silenced. Dissent was met with overwhelming force. Planets that resisted were made examples of. He believed he was forging a stronger galaxy. A more disciplined galaxy. He believed he was cutting away the rot. But he was merely replacing one form of tyranny with another. A more efficient, more terrifying form. He had the power he craved. But the cost was his soul, and the galaxy's freedom. Section 6. Reign of Darkness, the Black Emperor and his Shadows. The Black Emperor Mavis began to consolidate his iron rule. He knew that power, once seized, had to be maintained, with force, with fear. He established an elite unit, answerable only to him. They were known as the Shadows. Each member was a formidable Shen warrior, handpicked by Mavis himself. Their loyalty was bought with promises of power or extracted through fear. They became his personal enforcers, his spies, his executioners. Clad in dark armor that seemed to absorb light, the Shadows moved silently across the galaxy, crushing any hint of rebellion, silencing any voice of opposition. Mavis's own Shen power continued to grow exponentially. Freed from any moral constraints, he delved into forbidden Shen techniques, ancient arts that promised unimaginable might, arts that came with a terrible price. He drew energy directly from subjugated worlds. He experimented with manipulating the very fabric of the astral cells. His strength became legendary, terrifying. He could quell planetary uprisings with a mere gesture. His senses spanned star systems. He was becoming less man, more terrifying deity. But this relentless pursuit of power isolated him. It twisted his mind. It eroded his humanity, piece by piece. Paranoia became his closest companion, a cold serpent coiling around his heart. He trusted no one. Not his advisors, not his generals, not even the shadows he had created. He saw plots in every whisper, betrayal in every sidelong glance. His grand citadel became a fortress of solitude, filled with traps and hidden sentinels. His public appearances grew rare. His decrees became increasingly erratic, more cruel. The noble dream he once had, of a peaceful, orderly galaxy, was long dead, replaced by a desperate, fearful obsession with absolute control. He ruled not through respect but through terror. The galaxy groaned under his oppressive reign, hope dwindled, planets were stripped of their resources, their cultures erased, their people forced into servitude. The vibrant tapestry of the cosmos faded into a monochrome of fear and submission. Even the astral cells, the very source of Shen, seemed to dim. Their energy felt tainted, corrupted by the Black Emperor's dark influence. He was a blight, a scourge upon the stars. The peace he had promised was the peace of the grave. The order he enforced was the order of a prison. The Black Emperor was a monument to fallen ideals, a king of ashes. Section 7. The Shattered Crown, a Coup and the Fall. Within the ranks of the Shadows, discontent began to simmer, a dangerous development. Some among them were not mere power seekers. They had initially believed in Mavis's vision, or perhaps they had been drawn to his strength, hoping to steer it towards a better purpose. Now they saw the truth. They saw the monster he had become. The promises of a brighter future had dissolved into a nightmare of tyranny. Their loyalty wavered. Then it broke. A secret cabal of disillusioned shadows formed, led by Commander Lyra, once Mavis's most trusted. They knew they had to act before the galaxy was entirely consumed. Meanwhile, the Stave Rebellion, though battered and bruised, had never truly died. They had operated in the deep shadows, biding their time, rebuilding their strength, waiting for an opportunity. The whispers of dissent within the Emperor's own forces reached them. An unlikely alliance began to take shape. Stave veterans hardened by years of desperate struggle and the rebel shadows possessing intimate knowledge of the Emperor's defenses. Their common enemy, Mavis, the Black Emperor. They forged a desperate plan, a daring, almost suicidal assault on the heart of the Empire, on Mavis's impenetrable citadel. The attack was sudden, vicious. Stave forces launched a diversionary assault on the outer defenses, while Lyra and her rebel shadows infiltrated the citadel itself, using their knowledge of its secret passages and security flaws. A fierce battle erupted within the obsidian walls. Loyal shadows clashed with their former comrades. Shen energy tore through the grand halls. Mavis, alerted to the betrayal, met the attackers in his throne room. He fought with the fury of a cornered god. His dark Shen power was devastating, overwhelming. He struck down many, but he was outnumbered and outmaneuvered. The tide turned when Lyra confronted him directly, his former protege. She knew his fighting style, his weaknesses. Their duel was cataclysmic, Shen against Shen. Darkness against a flicker of desperate light. In the end, Lyra, aided by a combined assault from Stave warriors, managed to break through Mavis's defenses. He was struck down. His dark armor cracked. His connection to the immense power he wielded was severed. The Black Emperor fell, defeated, broken. Amidst the ruins of his throne, his reign of darkness was over. The galaxy held its breath. Then, a fragile cheer began to spread across the stars. Section 8. Path to Atonement, Mavis's redemption with Stave. Mavis was not executed, though many clamored for it. He was imprisoned by the newly formed Provisional Council, led by Stave commanders and the rebel shadows who had helped overthrow him. He faced his former comrades, the ones he had betrayed. The weight of his crimes was a crushing burden. Shame consumed him. He expected nothing but death, a swift end to his wretched existence. But some, like his old Stave mentor Master Evian, saw something else. Beyond the monstrous Emperor they saw a flicker, a tiny ember of the dedicated young man he once was. They offered him a different path, a path to atonement. The road to redemption was long, arduous. It began in a simple cell, with simple work. Mavis had to confront the full extent of the suffering he had caused, the lives he had destroyed, the hope he had extinguished. He was forced to listen to the testimonies of his victims. Each word was a lash. He did not shy away. He accepted their pain, their anger. Slowly, tentatively, he began to help. He used his intimate knowledge of the former Empire's workings, its hidden bases, its lingering threats, to aid Stave in the monumental task of rebuilding, of healing the fractured galaxy. He battled his inner demons daily. The seductive whispers of power still echoed in the recesses of his mind, the arrogance, the paranoia. But now he understood their true cost. He had seen the abyss. He had become it. He learned humility. Stripped of his grand titles and terrible power, he was just Mavis again. A man seeking to make amends. He learned compassion, truly feeling the pain of others. His Shen energy, once dark and destructive, began to change. It softened, it purified, becoming a gentle light, a tool for healing, for creation, not destruction. Gradually, painstakingly, Mavis began to earn a measure of trust, not forgiveness perhaps, that was too much to ask for, but acceptance. He worked tirelessly, side by side with those he had once oppressed, rebuilding shattered cities, restoring barren lands, mediating disputes between wary factions. He became a symbol, not of a conquering emperor but of a penitent, a testament to the possibility of change, of redemption. His greatest battles were no longer fought on starfields but within the quiet chambers of his own heart. He sought not to rule, but to serve. Section 9. Echoes of the past, seeds of the future, a new dawn. Years passed. The galaxy, scarred but resilient, slowly began to heal. The oppressive shadow of the Black Emperor faded into a grim memory, a cautionary tale. Mavis found a quiet peace he never knew as Emperor. He found companionship, even love, with a former Stave healer named Lyra, who had seen the man behind the monster. Together they had children, twins, a girl named Sarah, a boy named Fael. Both were born with a strong connection to Shen, a powerful potential that mirrored their father's, but they also inherited his complicated legacy, the echoes of his rise, his fall, and his atonement. Sarah and Fael grew up in a galaxy striving for balance. They heard the stories, the unvarnished truth of their father, Mavis, the brilliant rebel, the terrible Black Emperor, the redeemed servant of the people. They understood the heavy burden of his name, the shadow it cast, but also the light of his eventual redemption. They were determined to honor his true spirit, the spirit that fought for justice, the spirit that learned humility. They would not repeat his mistakes. They would not succumb to the allure of absolute power. Their father's life was their greatest lesson. They trained diligently to become Shen warriors, protectors, not conquerors. Mavis, older now and wiser, guided them alongside trusted Stave masters. He taught them not just techniques but also control, compassion, the importance of bonds, the dangers of ambition unchecked. Sarah was thoughtful, strategic. Her Shen manifested as intricate shields and precise energy blasts. Fael was passionate, impulsive. His Shen was raw power, barely contained. They learned to complement each other, to trust each other. As new threats began to emerge, remnants of the old empire stirring in dark corners, new warlords seeking to fill the power vacuum, their journey was just beginning. It was their own. To carry the lessons of the past into an uncertain future. To protect the fragile peace their father had helped rebuild. To ensure that the darkness that had once consumed Mavis and nearly the entire galaxy would never rise again. The legacy of the Black Emperor was a warning, but the legacy of Mavis, the redeemed, was a beacon. Sarah and Fael looked to the stars. Their destiny awaited. The Shen flowed through them, the hope of a new generation. The adventure was far from over. It was simply a new chapter.